Imagine a world where a simple scratch could mean death, where the average human possessed more survival knowledge than a modern PhD, yet most wouldn't live to see 40. This was not a dystopian future. This was Tuesday, 50,000 years ago. For over 200,000 years, our ancestors lived lives so foreign to our modern existence that we've fundamentally misunderstood almost everything about them. The term caveman itself is a myth. The image of primitive, grunting brutes huddling in darkness is fiction. The reality? Far more extraordinary. Today we uncover the untold story of prehistoric human life, a story of sophistication, intelligence, and survival skills that would put most modern humans to shame. This is what our ancestors really did all day, and why everything you thought you knew about cavemen is probably wrong. The first truth we must address: prehistoric humans did not live in caves. Archaeological evidence reveals that caves served as temporary shelters, ritual spaces, and seasonal refuges, not permanent homes. The vast majority of early humans were nomadic, following animal migrations and seasonal plant growth across territories spanning hundreds of miles. These weren't aimless wanderings. Recent archaeological discoveries have revealed that prehistoric groups maintained what anthropologists call seasonal rounds, sophisticated patterns of movement timed precisely to ecological cycles. They knew exactly where to be and when to maximize resources. A typical Paleolithic group consisted of 25 to 50 individuals, though they maintained connections with neighboring groups totaling up to 150 people. This number, known as Dunbar's number, represents the cognitive limit of stable social relationships humans can maintain, a limitation that exists in our brains to this day. These communities weren't simple. They had hierarchies, specialized roles, cultural traditions, and complex social rules. Leadership typically fell to the most skilled and knowledgeable, regardless of physical strength. In many groups, elder women held significant authority due to their irreplaceable knowledge of plant resources and medicine. The stereotype of male-dominated brute force societies? Archaeological evidence increasingly challenges this narrative. Dawn breaks across the African savanna, circa 50,000 years before present. A small band of Homo sapiens stirs beneath a rocky overhang, the remnants of last night's fire still glowing faintly. The first task of every morning was assessment. Each member of the group would be accounted for. In an era where infant mortality reached 40 to 50%, and where infection from even minor injuries could prove fatal, every sunrise brought the possibility of loss. But on this morning, everyone has survived the night. What happened next reveals the first major misconception about prehistoric life. These humans did not immediately rush out to hunt. Instead, the women of the group, often accompanied by older children, would begin the day's most important task: gathering. Modern hunter-gatherer studies, combined with archaeological evidence, suggest that 60 to 80% of prehistoric calories came not from hunting, but from gathered plant materials. Roots, tubers, nuts, seeds, berries, leafy greens, and yes, insects. The knowledge required for this task was staggering. A typical gatherer needed to identify hundreds of plant species, understand their seasonal availability, know which parts were edible and which were toxic, remember the locations of productive gathering sites across vast territories, and be able to predict when specific resources would become available. This wasn't simple foraging. This was applied botany, ecology, and cognitive mapping, all performed while carrying infants, maintaining awareness of predators, and covering distances of 5 to 10 miles per day. Recent studies analyzing wear patterns on prehistoric teeth and bones suggest that women's physical conditioning rivaled that of modern endurance athletes. These were not passive gatherers. They were the primary food providers, and their knowledge literally kept their communities alive. While gathering formed the foundation of survival, hunting provided crucial protein, fat, and materials for tools and clothing. But prehistoric hunting bore little resemblance to popular imagination. There were no dramatic confrontations with mammoths, at least not routinely. Large game hunting was rare, dangerous, and required coordination among multiple groups. Instead, most hunting targeted medium-sized animals: deer, antelope, wild horses, and smaller game. The primary hunting method used by early humans is almost unsettling in its simplicity: persistence hunting. Human beings possess a unique evolutionary advantage. Unlike almost every other mammal, we can cool ourselves through sweating. Other animals must stop and pant to regulate temperature. We do not. A persistence hunt would begin in the heat of the day. Hunters would identify a target animal, typically a kudu or antelope, and begin pursuit at a steady, jogging pace. The animal would bolt, quickly outdistancing the humans, but the hunters would continue, tracking the animal's spoor, following at that same relentless pace. Hours would pass, sometimes 8, 10, even 12 hours. The animal, unable to cool itself effectively, would gradually succumb to heat exhaustion. Eventually, it would simply stop running, its body temperature elevated beyond survivable limits. The humans, still sweating, still running, would approach their dying quarry. This method wasn't about strength or speed. It was about endurance, patience, and the unique physiology that makes humans the planet's supreme endurance runners. But hunts often failed. Success rates ranged from 20 to 30%. A failed hunt meant wasted energy and lost time, resources prehistoric humans could ill afford. This is why gathering remained paramount. Hunting supplemented the diet. Gathering sustained it. The afternoon hours were often devoted to what we might call maintenance tasks. But these tasks reveal the extraordinary technological sophistication of prehistoric humans. Tool-making was not a casual activity. Creating a functional hand axe from a piece of flint required hours of careful work, deep understanding of stone mechanics, and skills typically taking years to master. Archaeological experiments have demonstrated that producing a refined Paleolithic toolkit, hand axes, scrapers, blades, and points, requires knowledge equivalent to modern technical training. These weren't crude rocks tied to sticks. These were precision instruments, often displaying symmetry and craftsmanship that served no functional purpose. In other words, prehistoric humans made tools beautiful because they valued beauty. Now, fire itself represents humanity's first great technological revolution. By 400,000 years ago, Homo erectus was controlling fire. By 125,000 years ago, fire had become central to human existence. Fire provided warmth, protection from predators, a means to cook food, making nutrients more bioavailable and food safer, and a social center around which communities gathered. Maintaining fire was a communal responsibility. Someone always tended the flames because starting fire from scratch consumed precious time and energy. The firekeeper held one of the most important roles in any group. As evening approached and the group gathered around the fire, recent archaeological evidence has also revealed burial sites dating back over 100,000 years. Bodies were arranged carefully, often with grave goods, tools, ochre, flowers, and jewelry. This suggests belief in an afterlife, ritualistic behavior, and grief for the dead. We've discovered cave paintings dating back more than 40,000 years, displaying not just representational art, but abstract symbols, handprints, and designs that served no survival function. Early humans created art for the same reason we do, because we are compelled to express ourselves. Musical instruments have been found dating back 35,000 years, bone flutes capable of playing melodic scales. Music, dance, and storytelling were not luxuries. They were fundamental to human experience. Language likely emerged at least 100,000 years ago, possibly much earlier. This means prehistoric humans talked, gossiped, joked, argued, and told stories. They had names for each other, nicknames, shared histories. Children learned not through formal education, but through observation and imitation. By age 7, a child would be producing basic tools. By 12, they would participate in gathering or hunting. There was no extended childhood. Survival demanded early competence. Yet adults still played with children, told them stories, protected them fiercely. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups suggest prehistoric humans may have worked only 3 to 5 hours per day on survival tasks. The remainder of time was spent on social bonding, crafts, rest, and leisure. The agricultural revolution, which we celebrate as progress, actually increased working hours and decreased overall health. Prehistoric humans had better nutrition, less disease, and more free time than early farmers. For over 200,000 years, humans lived as we've described today. They mastered fire, developed sophisticated tools, created art, music, and language. They spread from Africa, across Asia, Europe, Australia, and eventually the Americas, adapting to every environment from tropical jungles to Arctic tundra. Every modern human alive today descends from these survivors. Their genes are our genes. Their brains are our brains. The same neural architecture that allowed them to track animal migrations, memorize hundreds of plant species, and create the first art also allows us to write symphonies, build spacecraft, and split atoms. We are not more intelligent than our prehistoric ancestors. We simply stand on the foundation they built. The next time you feel overwhelmed by modern life, remember, you carry within you 200,000 years of survival expertise. Your ancestors crossed continents on foot, raised children in the wilderness, and created beauty in a world that offered them nothing but challenge. They were not cavemen. They were us, fully human, fully capable, living extraordinary lives in an unforgiving world. This is what prehistoric humans really did all day. This is who we really are.